Good evening, everyone. We welcome you for the first Friday forum of this new term. And today we are meeting the virtual mode. Today's speaker is Dr. Sonal Bhatt, ma'am, Professor of Department of Economics, Sardar Patel University, Vallabh Vidyanagar. At the same time, the Management Committee member of ISTD Anand chapter. Today she'll be discussing on sustainable living for this Friday forum. Over to you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Divyang Bhai. Thank you so much and welcome all of you. Today we will have a session on sustainable living and I would like to introduce the topic. Of course, it all begins from the story of the climate change. We know that after 1950, in this 70 years after the 1950s, temperatures all over the world have taken record proportions. They've increased like anything, and hot days are much more than cold days. And the Earth's surface is 1.42 degrees Celsius warmer than what it used to be prior to the Industrial Revolution, which was somewhere in the 1850s. So climate change is a reality of our times. And climate change brings with itself lots of issues, extreme uneven rainfall. You see it every day. We are seeing it even today. Frequent flooding, loss of fertile land because of the flooding, loss of standing crops even. Urban flooding we all experience on a daily basis. Rising sea levels and seawater ingress into the land, which makes the ground water also saline. Also, melting polar ice, the polar glaciers are melting, and so you will have catastrophic floods and storms. Loss of marine biodiversity and the coral reef, the entire marine life, fishes, and the entire marine biology which supports itself. It's an ecology in itself. It is under danger. Intense droughts. On one hand we have floods, and the other hand we have droughts and water scarcity, forest fires because of the extreme heat. You just had California forest fires, and loss of biodiversity in the forest. As a result, forest depletion, pest attacks because of the temperature rising. The pests get a very amiable temperature to flourish and to grow. So they grow in record numbers and destroy standing crops. Falling crop in fisheries yield, so that there is an issue of food shortages are the reality of the day. Land and water pollution, especially for those rivers which we consider as holy. So the holier the river is, the more polluted it becomes. And falling productivity of outdoor labor. Everybody is not so lucky as to be able to work sitting in some air-conditioned office. So most people work outside and they have to remain outdoors, and they suffer the extreme heat and extreme cold conditions. Disproportionate effect of this falls on the poor population. So you have increasing climate refugees, internal and external migration. And that's how you have in armed conflicts, different kinds of conflicts, unpleasant incidents between the so-called locals and the so-called outsiders. So what are the reasons? Of course, climate change also happens naturally. It used to happen because the sun's activity and the volcanic eruptions take place. They have been taking place from millions of years. But since 1800s, human activities are the main drivers of climate change. Burning of fossil fuels for various reasons: industrialization, agriculture, housing, population growth, right? And reduction in the carbon sink because we are cutting down forests left, right, and center. So we are clearing land for housing, clearing land for agriculture. It all has an impact on the climate as a whole. So there are so many culprits. You cannot really blame any one activity or any one person or any one country even for climate change. Agriculture, industry, transport sector, construction industry, and all of us together. Consumption patterns of the ever-rising population is to be blamed for this very speedy climate change. What is consumption? So consumption in the economic parlance, it is what we call the individual wants. Collectively, when they are expressed, they are called as market demand. And the market demand is one that drives the economy towards matching production, because there's demand, so there has to be production, there has to be supply. So this creates waste, also overuse sometimes, and consumption also results in pollution in its own way. A psychological concept of consumption talks about how we consume to express our identity. We establish our place within the society and our peers, our immediate people, by the way we consume and the things and the services that we consume. Consumption also has a sociological dimension, because consumption, the things, the goods and services that we use are also used to affirm our identity in a socio-cultural manner. Our cultural values, traditions, lifestyle, our religious customs and traditions, all of those are also reflected somewhere in the way we consume things and services. So basically, in sociological sense, consumption is not an individual choice, but it is a collective decision of people together in a society. And of course, because it is social, it's collective decision, so it has consequences also from people, from countries, from natural resources that are available, and the biodiversity that surrounds us. Now, what is sustainable consumption? A sustainable lifestyle, so to speak. So it is the use of products, energy, and services in a way that minimizes the impact on the environment. So basically, we want to meet all our human needs in such a way that we flourish, we are able to live our life, exist, and live a full, flourishing life without, affecting the future generations and their ability to meet their own needs. So it talks about minimizing our our ecological impact, what we call as ecological footprint. So minimizing the ecological footprint of our consumption, our existence on nature, on the environment, that is what is sustainable consumption. This again is because it ultimately it affects, it is a collective decision in some way. So it is conditioned, facilitated, and even constrained by the societal norms that we live in, the political institutions that make rules and policies for us, public policies that the government makes for us, infrastructure availability and the lack of it, the markets and the market, the market forces as such, and the culture, our education, our the entertainment, the international cross-boundary influences. So many things affect whether our consumption will be sustainable or we are going to have a highly maximizing ecological footprint. Consumption is a very important part of the sustainable development agenda as well. Sustainable development goal, there are 17 goals which were, fixed by the United Nations. And goal number 12 tells us that it is sustainable development is to ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns. Basically propagating a lifestyle that is minimalist, it prevents wastages, and it reduces our ecological footprint as a human, as a race, as a human race as a whole. Government of India in November 2021 came up with a mission called Mission Life. Basically, life is LI stands for lifestyle, and F is for, and E is environment. So lifestyle for the environment. That is our mission. So Mission Life is a program by the Government of India. It was started, initiated by the Honorable Prime Minister, and it is envisaged as being a mass movement for mindful and deliberate utilization instead of mindless and destructive consumption. So basically, we are going from mindful consumption rather than mindless consumption. So from mindless to mindful, we are going to be more mindful of what we are consuming, so that I mean ultimately what we are consuming and how it affects others, right? So this movement is aiming to nudge individuals and communities to practice a lifestyle that does not harm nature. The mission gives a few themes. There are so many themes of the mission life. So let's discuss those one by one. So the strategy is something like that. The first phase, or the beginning, the initial phase, will be to change, or to what we say, reform the demand from consumers. So nudging consumers, nudging the individuals to practice a simple yet effective environment friendly action in their daily life, that make their daily lifestyle environment friendly. So because everything, all economic activities, they originate from demand. Whatever you demand, that is what is supplied, right? So unless there is a demand, there cannot be a supply. So you need to demand environment friendly products and services, and then the market is going to supply the same. So we first take the responsibility of making our own lifestyle environment friendly, and that is how the market will respond, by becoming more environment friendly in their production and supply. So the second phase will be the supply phase, where the industries will be nudged to produce and supply environment friendly goods and services, and the markets will then change. So the responsibility of becoming environment friendly or reducing our environmental footprint does not lie with the markets, it lies with us, the consumers. So we begin with the consumers. The second phase, we have the producers, the market. The third phase is the policy phase, where there is a shift in industrial and government policies to support sustainable consumption and production. So generally we think that the policy phase comes first. First there is a policy, and then the market would respond, and then the consumers will slowly change their lifestyle. It doesn't really work that way. It doesn't succeed in that manner. So here we are changing the whole strategy. We are saying demand, let demand come first. Let the consumers change their way of thinking and their lifestyle. Let there be a change from there, that side. And that will make, or rather that will force the supply side to respond and become more environment friendly in the techniques of production, in the products that they produce. And finally the policy will come in. So policy is not, it's the last, actually it's the last keg of this entire chain. So that is how we are envisaging it. The first theme of mission life is save energy. So in your daily life, what can you do? Use more LED bulbs and tube lights. Use public transport wherever it is possible. Take stairs instead of elevators wherever possible, for whoever it is possible. If you're a healthy person, you can do that. Switch off vehicle engines at the red lights on the crossing and on railway crossings. So whenever you are stopping for more than 1 minute, you should switch off the engine. Using bicycles for local or short commuting wherever possible, again whenever possible. Using as many as CNG or EV vehicles over the petrol diesel vehicles. Carpooling with friends and colleagues. Driving in the correct gear. You put your foot on the clutch only on changing gears. Solar water heaters or solar cookers, using them wherever possible, as much as possible. Switching of appliances from plug points when not in use. This, I think none of us really notice, but they also consume electricity, even though very little less amount, but still all of that will add up to a bigger amount. So switching off appliances and unplugging the points. Biogas wherever, if you have a farmhouse and if it's possible to have biogas, then you may well use it for cooking, etc. Keeping the AC temperature 24 degrees, the optimum, that is what they say. Pressure cookers for cooking wherever possible. Electronic devices should be kept on energy saving mode. Smart switches, which will be useful to control electricity wastage. Community earthen ponds to distribute cool water instead of everybody buying those bottles. Bislary की bottle हर एक को लेनी पड़ेगी. Why don't you have community ponds where everybody can have cool water? And yeah, so it used to be there in the past. We can bring it again, right? So defrost the fridge or the freezer regularly so that it doesn't consume more electricity, and run outdoors if the weather permits. You can run outdoors, your daily jog, instead of walking or running on a treadmill. So that is the first, these are the ways that the policy has identified the changes that you can easily make. All these changes are quite easy. They are nothing very fancy or very difficult, so to speak, right? So saving energy. The second theme of Mission Life is save water. So what are the actions that we can take? Reuse water from washed vegetables to water plants. Pre-soak heavy pots and pans before washing them so that you don't use too much water in using them, in cleaning them, sorry. Do not discard unused stored water when fresh water is available. Like, આ તો ગઈકાલનું પાણી છે એમ કરીને એને ફેંકી દેવાનો કોઈ અર્થ હોતો નથી. પાણી રીતે બગડતું નથી. Whatever. So using buckets instead of hose pipes to water plants, floors, or vehicles, because when you use hose pipes, the water is unlimited. You end up using more water, basically more water than necessary. So just use buckets and you will be able to control the amount. Fix leaks in flushes, taps, or any other water pipes as soon as possible. Don't neglect it, right? Water efficient fixtures for taps, shower heads, and toilet flush units wherever possible, and whatever is available as much as possible. Water meters can be installed to measure household water consumptions regularly so that you can change your behavior. You can monitor it and try to minimize the wastage in your house. Reuse the water which is drained from AC or the RO system for cleaning utensils or watering plants. Something can be done with that water. It doesn't have to go to the gutter directly. Prefer a water purification system that wastes less water, and turn off running taps when not in active use. When you're brushing your teeth, you don't need to put you don't need the tap on, right? You can put off the tap and then finish your brushing, and then when you need water, you can again put it on. So continuously running water, even when you actually don't need it doesn't make sense. So these small, very small, very easy to, so to speak, easy changes but ultimately they make a big difference. And so far as water use and water wastage is concerned. The third theme of Mission Life is saying no to single-use plastic. So using cloth bags for shopping instead of plastic bags, and asking for a plastic bag or buying a plastic bag from that particular vendor. Carrying your own water bottle wherever possible. Whenever you go out, just keep a small bottle, and you don't need to buy those expensive bottles of water, mineral water, so-called mineral water, and also generate so much of plastic trash. Reuse glass containers, plastic packaging as storage boxes wherever it is possible. It's in good condition, you can of course reuse it. Participate in and mobilize cleanup drives for cities and water bodies, and even public spaces, maybe gardens, maybe a cricket stadium, for example, a beach, for example, a riverfront, for example. So that can be done easily. Prefer using non-plastic eco-friendly cutlery during gatherings and events. So you don't need to have those disposable plastic things, and the amount of plastic waste that they generate is too much, right? So that we should avoid as much as possible. Use recycled plastic instead of virgin plastic wherever possible. Just ask for it. And there are things which are available. They are also cheaper. Virgin plastic is also costlier, if I think so. So you can go for recycled and also save your money and basically save the wastage that is happening. Use steel or recyclable plastic lunch boxes, water bottles, whenever you want to carry food or something. Cut packaging bags used for milk or buttermilk only partially. to avoid plastic bits mixing with biodegradable waste. You see, when you are cutting that whenever you are cutting the the milk that package, the small when you cut a small portion, that will mix with your other biodegradable stuff, and it will go into that. It'll get mixed up basically, and that small bit of plastic is very difficult to handle. So it's better to have a bigger pack, and the bigger pack can be easily recycled. It can be used in a better way. So that is what you should do, and opt for bamboo toothbrushes and neem maybe stuff, which basically wooden stuff. So even the combs are available, the toothbrushes are available, even pens are available, which are made of bamboo. So those are also fancy and also better than what the plastic that we use. Okay, so now, why is this now? Now the next theme of Mission Life is adopting a sustainable food system. So including millets and nutritious cereals, other cereals, so-called inferior cereals, but actually they are very nutritious. So all your bajra and your maize and all that is actually now very much in fashion, because earlier we used to discard them, saying, okay, these are inferior and so on. But now they are supposed to be the best as far as food nutrition of food is concerned. So include that as much as possible. Compost food waste at home and try to make manure try to use the same manure in your own garden. Create a kitchen or terrace garden or a balcony garden, even wherever it is possible for you, wherever you have some space. At home, in the schools, in the offices, you just need a small corner and just some little effort, and you will be able to grow something. Maybe some flowers, maybe a small chili plant, or anything. I mean, a tomato plant or something. धनिया कुछ आप उगा सकते हैं. It can go a long way in giving you satisfaction that you are able to grow part of your own food by yourselves. Prepare organic manure from the household waste that is there, and prefer locally available and seasonal vegetables and fruits. You don't need exotic fruits. Just buy whatever is growing in this country and in this season. And for daily meals, have smaller plates. तो आप बड़ा सा plate लेंगे तो the entire plate has to be filled up, and you end up not eating everything and you waste a lot of food. So use smaller plates, and perhaps you will be able to save on the food waste that you would have otherwise generated. The next theme is reducing wastage in foods, various products, things. So practice segregation, distribution of dry and wet waste. That green you have a green dustbin for wet waste, biodegradable waste, and blue basket for the dry waste, the non-biodegradable waste. So that is very easy to. You just bring 2 dustbins and just practice. It's the easiest thing to do. Recycle and reuse old newspapers and magazines for various things, for lining your books, your cupboard shelves, for example. And wherever possible, there's so many uses of old newspapers and magazines and paper as such, and we used to do that earlier also. I think this was all part of our traditional lifestyle, which we have forgotten in the quest of becoming modern and better, and as our incomes grew. So we can go back to it, not for the sake of money, then maybe the sake of environment. Feed unused and uncooked vegetables leftovers to cattle. Set printer default to double side printing so that one side of the paper is not wasted. Repair, reuse, and recycle old furniture, repurpose it in some other way so it can be used, it doesn't go into trash. Buy paper products made from recycled paper. Donate old clothes and books wherever possible. Whoever needs it more than you. Do not discard waste in water bodies. Even if the river is very holy, you should just join your hands and pray. You should not put all those, even the puja stuff, for example, is also full of chemicals. So why waste? Put your waste in the holy river and end up basically polluting the river. So all that should not be done in water bodies, rivers, ponds, public spaces, etc. Do not let your pets, if you have them, don't let the pets defecate in public places and create waste and of course inconveniences for other people. Uh, the next theme of Mission Life is adopt healthy lifestyle, use millets, indigenous herbs, medicinal plants for nutrition and well-being, your own well-being as well as the environment as a whole. Consume natural and organic products wherever possible so that you encourage production of these natural and organic products. Ultimately, what you demand will be produced and those producers will be encouraged. Start biodiversity conservation at community level. Plant medicinal plants. There can be many. You can have neem and tulsi and mint leaves and curry leaves and even ashwagandha. If you have some space, you can have a small, a plant of ashwagandha within your garden. If it is possible for you, whatever is possible, however much is possible. Nothing is too small. No effort is too small. Plant trees wherever possible to reduce the impact of pollution and for carbon sequestration. Avoid purchasing products or souvenirs made of animal skins or elephant tusks or fur, because that is how you are discouraging those who damage or destroy or kill those animals. Create community food or cloth banks and basically give away your old clothes to people who may be in need. Initiate or join green clubs in colonies, schools, your own school or office, wherever you go. Just try and spread awareness about this. Spread awareness about this kind of lifestyle. Not only you yourself, but others also should join with you. That should be your effort. Reduce e-waste. Last but not the least, e-waste is a reality of our times, because we actually use so much of electronic devices on a daily basis. So ultimately, these waste is going to be substantial. It's going to be huge, and it's going to, again, all of these are non-biodegradable stuff. So they also end up piling up so much of waste. So repairing and reusing electronic devices instead of discarding them. So if you have an old phone and there is a new phone in the market, you don't have to necessarily buy one. Just because I have another iPhone 17 has come doesn't mean that I need to discard my iPhone 10. If it is working fine, I might as well continue to use it. So that kind of obsession with new devices and updated devices, even though you don't need that updated technology, doesn't make sense. You only upgrade whenever you really require. Otherwise, you should continue to repair it and use it. And instead of discarding, then give it to someone who would use it. Discard gadgets at the if at all you want to discard or you have to discard at the nearest e-recycling units. Use rechargeable lithium cells, lithium batteries, and prefer a cloud storage account over a pen drive or a compact disk, because that also contributes to e-waste. So these are all, themes of sustainable consumption that has been given by Mission Life. And those, now, if you just saw these, all that I discussed, there was nothing very new in them. All of it, all the gyan that is being given in Mission Life, it is already known. We have all been told about this. We are already aware about this. So there's nothing that we don't know or something that is completely like it just dawned upon us. We are aware of the climate change happening around us, the environmental destruction that happens around us on a daily basis, and the impact of our consumption also is known to us. Basically, everybody knows everything, they just don't do anything about it. So there are many barriers, very, very real, very, very cognizable barriers to sustainable consumption. So what are those? So let us discuss them. So there is a knowledge and behavior gap. There is a knowledge. Everybody knows everything, but they do not change their behavior. Whatever is, if you know, then you should change your behavior. You should act accordingly, but people don't do that. So there is a knowledge and behavior gap. So Consumers are aware of the impact of their consumption choices on the environment. They also know what is socially and environmentally sustainable and good and viable, but they do not act upon it. They simply know, and knowing is not enough. You have to also act, which we don't do. There is a values action gap. The values have been given to us by our religion, our our parents, basically the cultural and the religious and the even the social values. So India used to, in India, in Hinduism, for example, we have been worshipping the elements of nature since eons. We worship trees, we worship various, हर एक मतलब देवी देवता को हम कहते हैं कि उनके so and so animal, so and so bird, उनके साथ एसोसिएट हमने किया है. हमारे यहाँ पे नागों की भी पूजा होती थी, ऑल्सो worships snakes in a way. So there are value systems are already in place. Everybody knows they have the requisite values ingrained into them, and still their actions are so much contrary. They are completely contradictory to the values that they hold. So the values make us care about environmental issues, but it is ultimately translating only into some kind of lip service, and we don't really put anything that we know into practice. There is an attitude and behavior gap. You have attitude is ultimately your mental state. So the mindset is completely completely aware. So we know everything, and we also kind of agree in our minds, but we resist changing our consumption pattern. Why would that be? Because then we are too selfish, maybe, or too lazy, reluctant to alter our lifestyle, reluctant to come out of our comfort zone, or the higher cost. Sometimes it is costlier to change your consumption pattern, to go for a sustainable lifestyle. So you don't want to take that extra cost. And also sometimes the fear of judgment from peers or society. If I don't buy a new sari for every marriage in the family, then what would people say about me? That is my worry. So even though I know that buying so many clothes and basically wasting so much of fast fashion is so bad for the environment, I shouldn't be buying so many clothes. If I'm going to wear a sari only for one occasion, I shouldn't be buying every now and then another sari. But still I have to buy because people, what will, how would people judge me then? They would think I'm so poor and so stingy and all. So attitudes and behavior is a big gap. We are not able to surpass that gap, and that is why consumers do not change their behavior. And so this is not an easy task. The barrier is very, very huge and very, very real. Reasons for the gap. First thing is economic rationality. All consumers are completely rational. So they are looking only from a good or a service. They look for functional benefits only, not the effect of the same. Relative affordability. Now, many times you find that those, so-called organic products or so-called environment-friendly products, they are also costlier than those which are not environment-friendly or not organic, not labeled as such. So you don't want to, you have lots of respect for environment and this and that, and you can talk about it for hours together. But when it comes to actually opening your purse and getting and paying the price, you want to go for a cheaper product, cheaper alternative. So that economic rationality is a reality, and so consumers don't want to change their consumption behavior and go for environment friendly products and services. So they are looking only for self interest, and their perspective is very short term. Today it should be affordable to me. Tomorrow, in the future, this is going to damage the environment. वो हमें नहीं दिखता. So today I'm going to buy something cheaper, but in the future, in the long term, it will be it will damage the environment. But then, as Keynes put it, in the long term we are all dead. तो हमको लॉन्ग टर्म दिखाई नहीं देता, हम शॉर्ट टर्म में सोचते हैं, एंड शॉर्ट टर्म रियलिटी इज समथिंग एल्स. Psychological factors, emotional and irrational response. I know that this should be done, but I don't do it because I am not used to it. I don't like it. What will people say about me? How can I do this? This is too difficult. I'm too lazy. So emotional and irrational responses for not changing into responsible consumption behavior. Sociological factors are very, very powerful because we ultimately get influenced by people around us. So that is what economists call the demonstration effect. So I have to buy something, some new product because my neighbor has bought it. Whether I need it or not is a different thing. So influenced by other people's opinions, responses, and my our relative position in society, that also affects our consumption. And so our consumption becomes wasteful, so much wasteful, so much unnecessary, just so that other people would think such and such about me, right? So these reasons are very powerful, and that stops us. Not that we don't know. Everybody knows about the environment. Everybody knows that climate change is important. But why nothing is happening? Because the barriers are too strong, and they are multifaceted, and we need to find a way to bridge this gap, or to break these barriers, to overcome these barriers. Then only we'll be on the path of sustainable consumption and what we call as minimalist living. Otherwise minimalist living की तो बातें आप तो करते ही रहो, आप 2 घंटे उसकी बातें करो, and then you will continue to do whatever you've been doing all your life. So this is not that simple. So Mangur Olson is an economist, and he has given a theory of collective action way back in 1971. He says that there are some problems, some economic problems are such that do not have any technical solutions. So there are no technical solutions, no legal solutions per se. So these solutions, for example, so environmental pollution or environmental degradation, according to Olson, is one such problem, that it is not going to have technical solutions, or there cannot be any legal remedies, or no policy remedies will work over here. People have to change their behavior, their attitudes, their institutions which influence them, and it needs cooperation. Now, cooperation की भी हम बात करते हैं. We do say that cooperation, and you should cooperate, and you should do this, but actually we do not do. That is again why don't we cooperate so easily? Why don't we just talk about cooperation, but we actually don't cooperate? Why is that? Because individual rationality leads to collective irrationality. So Mankur Olson says that we are all rational in our decisions. We like to take decisions and behave in a way that is going to benefit us as an individual. So individual rationality, our own self-interest runs, it is paramount to us. And everybody, because if I am rational, everybody else also is rational. So each person is rational in his or her own way. And ultimately it leads to what we call collective irrationality. तो इंडिविजुअली सभी बहुत ही इंटेलिजेंट है, और कलेक्टिवली वो लोग सब बेवकूफी कर रहे हैं. they are destroying the environment in which they live. So that kind of an outcome is the result. So this needs to be replaced. It needs to be replaced. How? Individual irrationality should lead to collective rationality. Individually हम ऐसे decisions लें जो कि maybe they are not good for us, they are costly to us, they are difficult, costly, time consuming, not easy at all, coming out of our comfort zone. So individually it becomes irrational. It doesn't suit us individually maybe, but if everybody behaves irrationally and tries to adopt a lifestyle which is having a lesser, lower environmental footprint, that individual irrationality ultimately would lead to collective rationality, because we would be able to then protect our environment. And that is the mainstay of all of us. We are all going to be happier if you have a cleaner environment, if you have cleaner resources and ample resources to meet all our needs in the present as well as in the future. So individual irrationality is the need of the hour, but what we do is we go for individual rationality. हमको हमारे से मतलब है, हमारे फायदे से मतलब है. अगर अपना फायदा नहीं देखे, अपना नुकसान करके भी अगर कलेक्टिव रैशनैलिटी हम चूज करते हैं, तो वी आर गोइंग टू do a great favor to our environment. So collective action is necessary for environmental conservation. That is what Mankur Olson said. So Olson again has talked about how this collective action would happen. So he has described it that this gap, I mean, this knowledge action gap and attitude behavior gap, this can be overcome if we organize ourselves into small groups, not big groups, but small groups. Small groups which are made voluntarily, which are formed voluntarily on some kind of homogeneity. There should be something common within all the members of this group. So homogeneity, then geographical and emotional closeness. For example, if you are in a family, then you are emotionally close. Sometimes you are in the same locality, so you are geographically close. So some kind of commonality, geographical or emotional closeness that will form the basis of this group. At least one member of the group should be interested more than others to protect the environment. That's what we call the group leader, right? The somebody, at least one person who will make the necessary initiative and the effort to lead everybody towards a certain sustainable lifestyle. And everybody who will listen to him and then they will emulate him, and it will ultimately, the entire group will change their behavior based on the leadership of that one person, right? Then because of the small size of the group, it's a very small group, right? So every individual is able to notice the actions of other members. So there is inter monitoring within the group. Everybody is looking at everybody else and doing as everybody does. So like we all decide that we will have a sustainable lifestyle, and then we see everybody meet each other on a daily basis, and if somebody is not doing, then we immediately notice. So because there is a peer pressure from the members of your group, you also kind of you are kind of compelled to change your lifestyle and become better, or because of it's a small group, so you can have rules and regulations for using or responsibility of preservation of a certain environmental milieu in which you exist. If there is a problem, if there is some problem, some kind of dispute, then dispute redressal is also possible. It's a small group. Punishment to the offender, some kind of punishment, some kind of, अच्छा चलो आपने ये किया, आप सबको चाय पिलाओगे, that also is punishment. But the entire group will be able to reinforce positive behavior within each other. That is the idea. So formation of small groups should be encouraged to conserve the environment at the micro level, at the micro level, in the house, in the family, in the office, in the in your cricket team, for example. So these small groups will be able to reinforce each other and lead everybody towards sustainable living, and so you will be able to come out of that barrier, the knowledge behavior barrier, or knowledge behavior or the knowledge action gap can be then overcome in a small group if you become part of a small group. What about a large group? Now, ultimately, somewhere along the line, we also realize that environment is everybody's business. It's ultimately it's a macro phenomenon. So there is a large group, there are thousands, maybe lakhs of people in a group, and all of them cannot be mobilized together, and you can't reach everybody, you can't force everybody, you can't influence everybody. And so everybody does whatever they want to do, and ultimately they all end up damaging the environment, damaging the common resource, the environmental resource that they share. So what do you do with a large group? Does it mean that the large group will be free to damage environmental resources as they like? Can we do something about it? So Bankur Olson has said that a large group has to be mobilized. You need to have a mobilized large group. It should not be an inert, passive group. नहीं होना चाहिए, उसको mobilize करना होगा. How do you mobilize them? It can be mobilized through a situation, maybe a situation of coercion, situation of danger. अभी climate change का danger जैसे जैसे बढ़ेगा, everybody will start acting. अभी तो पहले तो किसको पता नहीं चल रहा था ना. Everybody thought that okay, climate change कहीं और हो रहा है and I am quite okay in my comfort zone. जैसे जैसे danger बढ़ता जाएगा, people will start acting. So a large group can be the best thing about the large group, that it gets mobilized whenever there is a situation of immediate danger, a fear, a crisis which is looming, or any other coercion from some external force, some external situation maybe. So that is the time where it will be mobilized. Now, अगर ऐसी ऐसी स्थिति न आए, अगर ऐसी सिचुएशन नहीं आए तो क्या करें? तब तक हम क्या राह देखेंगे? We cannot, isn't it? So there is a role of a leader. So a large group will be mobilized by a leader. So Mankur Olson उनको political entrepreneur कहते हैं. So it is a political entrepreneur who is basically mobilizing this group, making them aware, making them act, basically, uh, forcing them or coercing them into action, bringing them out of their inertia and their inaction, and making them actively involved in the environmental movement. So leaders का बहुत important role है. So we require more and more environmental leaders, opinion leaders who would then, so we, for example, we the community, the teaching community, for example, I think we have a great responsibility. We can mobilize our students at least. कहीं और नहीं जाएंगे, कहीं भाषण नहीं देंगे, पर अपने students को तो बता ही सकते हैं. So हमारे अपने classroom में, in our own classroom, our own students, we can tell them about sustainable lifestyle. We can exemplify sustainable lifestyle. हम एक तरह से मतलब how we act and how we behave, our students observe it minutely, and they are likely to copy us. So we can be role models for them, because role models, teachers are always role models for their students. So let us now become political leaders, with role models for our students, and encourage them towards sustainable living. So ये हो सकता है. Then that that inertia, that gap, value action gap जो है, values तो सभी को है. Students in environmental studies पढ़ के ही आते हैं. उनके पढ़ाते तो हम हैं, बट पढ़ाना काफी नहीं है. You have to mobilize them. You have to actually live it through. You have to show them you actually, in your own life, by your own actions, you show them sustainable living, and then they are likely to copy you. Right? So that is how a large inert group can be mobilized, channelized into action. So this leader, the more powerful, the more effective the leadership is, the more likely it is that they will understand and channelize the motivations of their followers, and organize them together and lead them towards collective action or a mass movement. So environmental mass movement, it can succeed. It is not something that cannot. Even large group also is possible to make it succeed. So environmental mass movement is the need of the hour, I would say, and it can and it must succeed, I think, at any cost. So with that, I think that is from my side, and I welcome any questions, any comments that you all might have. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, madam. Anyone wanted to share anything? The floor is open for all.
बेहद अच्छा रहा मैडम का सेशन. कुछ चीजें बहुत गार्डनिंग की अच्छी रही कि अगर कुछ चीजें खुद करे तो कार्बन फुटप्रिंट पे इफेक्ट पड़ेगा. थैंक यू.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Bhagat ji. It was nice session, madam. We had covered everything regarding the sustainable living, starting from the understanding the concept to the various aspects. Right. And as you said, we are right now experiencing the rain, uncertain and unstoppable at various places, unexpected as well. And so we can change this world by small things at our end. Thank you all for joining us today, and we'll be taking these sessions on our YouTube channel ISTD Anand. You can refer this at a later stage or ask your friends to refer this video. Thank you for joining.